Hey, welcome into this edition of the GASOCast, episode 15 of the 2023-2024 season. It's state time, fellas. Let's get it going.
What's up?
Few housekeeping items. Couple hoops with Mass and Blue. We go deep dive in state. Recruiting Simplified newsletter drops on Wednesday. Acting Bad broadcast where you can find Mike's state champ picks. The GASO Fast Break is going to have an incredibly deep state primer. GASO Linden, shout out. We got events coming up. We just had NextGen. We're going to talk a lot about NextGen on this. It was an incredibly deep and talented event. And make sure and follow us. We'll be all over the state this weekend. I'll be live streaming. Y'all will be in San Antonio. We'll be communicating. Blue, we might do something special if we can pull it off. The time works out.
Yeah.
Don't book it, but it's a maybe. It's a hard maybe.
Is it a maybe because it's me?
No. Maybe because it's me. Let's talk record breakers here. I got 4 for you. Okay, they're dwindling down. And I don't know if this is a record breaker, but I'm going to mention it. Daniel Williams, Kay Dotson, Clarence Paillet playing their 7th and potentially 8th games in the Dome. Is that a record? Probably.
That's great.
It's got to be for the Dome. Insane. 1,000-point club. Trent Payne, 2025 from Allen. Dakari Spear, 2026 from the Colony. Giancarlo, 2024 from Belton. Michael Olele. I hope I'm saying it right.
Yes.
Houston Second Baptist. I'm just going to act like I'm saying it right. Shout out, man. Michael's tweet was, scored 1,000 in my last high school game. I thought that was really cool.
Yeah, that's awesome.
All right. We had an event last weekend. Michael Timmons. Amazing.
Appreciate
Amazing job. Let's talk about our opening thoughts about NextGen.
Yeah, very pleased with the turnout. When we stood up there that morning and just kind of looked at the talent, we were like, man, blown away. From the 28s, the 27s, and the 26s, just so much depth all over the place. Mass, you'll get into how overwhelming it was. But we're just excited. Anytime GASO puts out a product or an event, like, we're not doing it with any ulterior motives. GASO's been around since 1989. Anytime we do something, we do it with precision, with a lot of thought behind it. And the thought of us going next gen is just because of the talent that's coming in Texas at a younger and younger age. These kids are more skilled. High school coaches are like, I can't wait for y'all to see our incoming freshmen that we have right now at middle school. So we're like, all right, let's play the game. Let's see what they look like. I feel like the more we see players, the better they are off because we do our due diligence to really advocate for these kids. So what better than to have an event like this to where we can start advocating quicker and getting to know you. It was about a relationship that Blue will go into in a second, but just I feel like from top to bottom, everybody's experience was a good one, and I'm excited to kind of use this event as a great staple for GASO going forward.
I think that we also have to mention, and I will, is that this is a growing part of our camp series here that Michael was his brainchild. And last year we thought it was great, but he just made it even better. And that's what we do as a company. We look to see what works, what may not have worked, and how do we add. And that's what that's what we do for everything that we when we sit down to brainstorm and plan. So I thank Michael for that. But this weekend, my first thoughts were, it truly was the opportunity to build relationships. We met so many parents in the 8th graders and 9th graders that we had a chance to sit down and see. It made me feel good that I'm already, almost 9 months ahead of schedule now. I'm going to tell you, with some of the top 9th graders in the state of Texas. Not everybody could make it. I understand that. But when I'm sorry, 2028s that will be 9th graders next year. And so I think that's kind of my big takeaway, was that relationship builder of like, hey, I remember the first time I saw you was at the GASO Next GEN. Thanks for coming out. But now this is where you start getting your elevation and your recruitment and with our evaluations and being a middleman that advocates for you to the college coaches.
Yeah, well put. I'll just say this: the state's in great hands. A lot of talent. I just kept saying over and over and over again, man, these kids are so talented, so young, and their bodies aren't developed yet. They're making some incredible plays. It it's almost impossible. It's like TABC. It has that feeling where you're just like, there's too much going on. Like if I don't sit down and focus on a smaller volume, I'm just gonna miss it all. And that's kind of my thing. I at the end of the day, like you got to pick and choose some courts. And I was just randomly showing up at court and saying, I'm gonna watch here for 15 minutes, 10 minutes, whatever happens. I'm gonna get a feel for those players. So my
Yeah,
head was on a swivel. My head was spinning. Uh,
yeah,
I looked at my tweet and I was like, "Holy cow!" Like I left off good performances. It's just like it's so overwhelming. And as much as I took in, I know I still missed stuff. Right? That's
yeah.
how deep and talent rich this event was. Really cool to see. And like Blue said, this is the first time we're seeing you, and it's going to create so many great reference points down the road for us as evaluators when we go to a game. It's like, yeah, I remember he did that. Look at him now.
Yeah. I think that was the biggest thing that you look at is like when we're at a random high school game next year, you're like, oh, where have I seen this freshman?
Yeah,
Oh yeah, that was what's his name from our next gen.
yeah,
And so we talked a little bit before the camp to parents. It was like if you give us GASO staff any extra ammo, I mean, we're just going to be even more powerful. And I feel like that was a great weekend. Obviously, there was a huge event in Houston that I saw a lot of top 2028s down there as well. We're going to go to San Antonio in the fall. But just I mean, this is going to be a great staple going forward. And I mentioned at the beginning of our camp, like this isn't an end all be all. It's a learning experience, learning how to play with different types of people. We're not a hype machine. We're not going to go rank our 2028s because we saw them at a camp. That's just not the Gasso way. But it was an opportunity to create momentum for yourselves. And whether you walked away from the camp where you're like, oh, kind of overwhelming, at least you're learning. And that's what it's about. Like as these younger kids, you have time to learn and adjust and kind of just take the next step. So it's a learning experience is great for everybody. But I had a great time, and I'm very thankful for everybody that supported.
yep, 100%. Let's talk showstoppers. Who was a guy who just like shut the gym down for you, who you saw and were like, that dude, not MVP of the camp, just a guy that's like in your mind. That's like my mind changed, of like something about like that guy is different. Blue.
Well, being a guy that's only 5'6", 5'6" tall, looking at Daniel Oameka from Dallas WT Wide at 6'11", some may see 7 foot. That guy, what I came away with show stopping ability was the instincts. Big men, I mean, yeah, sure, you can say he's still a little bit stiff when he gets away from the basket, but he knows how to finish a play. And that also goes on the other side of blocking shots and rebounding and running the floor. Obviously, being the biggest guy on the court is very easy to see, but he is a guy that's going to start getting even bigger buzz as we head into the spring and into the summer because guys with that size and mobility, and you consider and go, when I get him into college, I'm going to just continue to polish every piece of his game. It translates. It matters with him.
Mike.
Yeah, for me, Xavier Roberson of Dynamic Prep. When I kind of the last thing I said when we spoke in front of all those kids was nobody's too cool to play hard here, and he took that and just dominated the day from his effort level. He didn't care who he was on the court with. He didn't care what his name was. He didn't care who his name was. He had almost that Ron Holland energy that translated into a lot of production.
Yeah.
He was running on every fast break with guards. He didn't care who was on his team. He was going to go rebound. Just do everything that's going to make yourself stand out at the camp. And every time you looked over, he was doing something. He was undeniable. It didn't matter, Mass, if you were there for 15 minutes on one of his games or 2 minutes. He was going to make plays every time he had the opportunity to. And at a camp, sometimes those are the type of guys. I pulled him to the side. I was like, hey, it doesn't matter what level of camp you're on or where you're at. If you play like that, you're always going to stand out. And I feel like he's a great example of how you want to attack any type of camp or any type of just your energy.
Yeah.
Obviously, he's skilled enough to match. So some plays he was going to make regardless, but I think it enhanced his whole overall stock from the way he played.
Yeah, and also, we saw him play last year with the Drive Nation 15 group. That was so electric. And then he goes to Dynamic Prep, which there's a lot of really good players there and that are older and stronger and more mature than him. And it was almost like he showed up and was like, "Hey guys, don't forget about me. Like I
Yep.
still do this." And loved the way Xavier played. I got to have a conversation with him afterwards, and I was just like, "Man, really impressive, really impressive." I'm gonna go with Kavion Bryant, Palestine Westwood, 2027. My gosh, dude's a freshman, gonna be, or sorry, he is a freshman, and he was playing on these on with the 26 section, 26 27 section, and he was an alpha amongst the 26 alphas. And just like he has this great build, he can score on all three levels. He's got a wicked first step, strong, can go finish at the rim, can go get a midi, can fire it from three. Just very, very steady, confident. He plays with a lot of nuance. Dude's a killer, just an absolute killer. And he is worth the price of admission. I know he's had like some crazy 55-point games and, just coming to that setting and just kind of being an alpha and something like that, especially as a freshman, just like loved him. Love him.
Absolutely.
Let's move on to favorite 28s. Let's just talk. Some guys that stuck out to you that you're just like, dang, I like that dude.
Yeah, I'll tip this part off with Haynes Brookhart, about 6'3", from will be attending Richardson Pierce. He stepped out and shoot it. He stepped out to shoot it, and more times than not, it went in. And he was just getting himself in position, which in a camp setting, he was very aware who the athletic guys were, and he made sure he had the right type of spacing to catch and shoot. And he did a really good job of that. And he also went to the boards.
Yeah, for me, Caden Primus, he'll be going to Prosper Walnut Grove. When I'm just looking at all these 28s, they all stood out from just like that's the first thing me and Matt said at like 9 a.m. when those 28 started playing. It was like, look at these guys over here. Look how skilled they are. I can't get over that. I'm like, well, look at this court over here. Caden had one of those just looks to him, the way, like, just the build, the mannerisms, the way he floated with the ball in his hands, the speed, just one of the more complete players, top to bottom at our event, that you just are like, okay, because this is what we're looking at. 28s, there's a lot of hype when you're in middle school, but we're looking, okay, what do you do to get on the high school court as soon as possible? Like, what can you do there? And his decision making, just his knack and his feel just stood out right away. So yeah, very excited with what I saw of Caden.
Speaking of, I love that. How are they going to get on the court in high school? And I see the path very clearly for Nehemiah Davis. He's going to attend Coppell next year, and this dude is just a bully. He plays hard. He can guard a lot of spots. He's just rugged inside, and he just has all the physicality. Like he's going to show up on campus at Coppell and be able to compete right away, and just get production, just rebounds, points around the basket, and then as he continues to get skill in that game with that athletic frame and strong build, look out. He was really, really, really good. 27s,
20,
Mike?
Yep. 27s. Mari Wickware, Dallas Kimball. One of those kids that in a year, because we saw him last year, he came, but like in a year, the bodies change very quickly. His ability to get off the ground so quick is scary at this level. He was so dominant that one of the players did a half court heave and hit him with the ball, knocked the slushy into him. They were trying to get him out of the gym. That's how much he was dominating. But his feel to play with guards, he runs the floor well. He has a good IQ he's one of the bigger guys on the court, but he just knows how to navigate space. He knows how to run wide on transition. He's just a really good player, and he started to have some really good steam for Dallas Kimball down the playoffs and late in the stretch, to where he wasn't, the physicality as a freshman didn't matter anymore, and he's just starting to make that next jump very quickly. And I was very impressed.
He was trying to tear down our rims. Like it was ridiculous. He competed too. Like that's just what those dudes do.
Something that caught my eye with my 27 was Parker Bolden, 6'2", from Louisville Hebron. The one thing about him that was kind of the reverse here than I think from what we're talking about. A lot of athletic plays by some guys, bringing down the rim, trying to tear it down and so forth, and making these unbelievable plays. Where what I saw from Parker was a guy that wanted to compete on the same level as, hey, I'm going to run the team a little bit. I'm going to give the ball up. I'm not going to always look for my shot. I thought he shared the ball well. I thought that he was actually he had a different mindset than, hey, let's just race everybody up and down the court. He kind of slowed it down a little bit, made some really good passes, took shots when he could, got to the rim. It wasn't anything that you kind of see constantly. But I thought it was a little bit refreshing that this guy wanted to go out there and he was just competing on a different level with different angles in his mind and trying to get the ball to teammates as he kind of went along in the 3 games to kind of set other people up and not always make it him first.
Man, I'm frustrated because my 26 is like that. Like, he just, I love that take, especially at a camp setting. I'll hop in here. Kellen Cantrell, Dallas Highland Park, 2027. This dude's a smooth operator. Long, he's got some game, he's got some wiggle and some burst. He can shoot it, he can finish. HP's got themselves a good one. I think the stat's true. Only 3 freshmen have played on varsity there in the last, I think, in Coach Peeler's era.
Were you one of them?
I was not one of them.
Okay.
I was definitely not one of them. If scoring was charges, I'd be one of them. Tough. But Kellen got some run on the varsity. He did play a lot of JV this year, but just the fact that, like, a program like that, that's very like senior led, system driven, that he can go buck the system and have a chance. I saw it all. I'm really excited to watch him continue to develop. I think he's playing on that AB Elite team, which is really fun.
Yeah, that AB Elite team is going to be really good.
2026s. We did drop our 2026 rankings a couple weeks ago, so we are familiar with this class, and it was just great to see these guys go out and kind of be the alpha. You know what I'm saying? Like, it was their show. And Michael, you really hit on, like, it's your time. You're turning into an upperclassman now. Now you got to be the leader of this camp. Now you got to be bringing the energy. Like, no more. You can't fool around anymore. It's time. It's time to grow up. Who was that guy who made that impression with you, Michael?
Yeah, it was Luke Susko from Flower Mound. What I loved about Luke was what I heard from everybody else, whether it was a parent, whether it was some coaches in there, whether it was a player that played with him. He was like, oh, who's that kid? The kid with the long hair. He was killing. And, like, right away, he's one of those guys that their energy's there, but then all of a sudden you just see the killer instinct of top of the key ISO. You're not going to put a hand up. Well, that's easy to do. I'm going to shoot over you. Oh, Kavion Bryant, I can see that you want to play some ball. I'm going to run with you. Throw this lob up to me. I'm going to dunk with one hand. From 9 a.m. tip, he just was one of the guys that everybody was talking about, and he really helped his stock just from the effort level, the energy, the physicality. Like, he was going to show, hey, I don't care who's on the court with me. I'm stronger. I'm more physical, and I don't care that this is a camp. I'm competing here, and I'm going to do everything. So
Kid is such a winner. Such a winner. Yeah. He's the mass Timmons Venn diagram dude. I'm just telling you.
Yep.
Like, we'll get into that later. Blue?
They're not ready.
I'm sticking with a little bit of the same theme as I did with my 27. Is that Devin Kirk? There was some flashes out there that he did that caught my eye, and one of them was that, he's a guy that's in transition of maturing out there. He looked more lean than he did several months ago. He's actually taking his game and running the floor, looking for open spots to hit little jumpers or take it to the basket. I thought that he did a really good job of kind of piecing some things together and showing me especially a little bit more than what I've seen from the past because of his big body and how he is versatile. He did a lot of, like, interior stuff early on, and now he's out there running the wing and could knock down some shots and like I said, get to the basket and make people miss and be physical.
Yeah, he's a really complete player. I really enjoy watching Devin. I'm going to go with Keon Williams from LD Bell. I knew he could shoot. I knew he can shoot and score. Really smooth, can get it going quickly. But what I saw from him was his passing ability. And that was something that I was like, man, that is something that just completely changes your view on a player. Just another layer, another chance to build a relationship, see these kids in different settings. And this kid was just making plays all day long, and he was making plays for others. He was making plays for himself. LD Bell's doing a really good job. They're building over there, and they've got a really fun group. A lot of guards, a lot of spacing, a lot of shooting. And Keon, is a big reason for their success at such a young age, and I'm looking forward to continuing to see that. Keon was phenomenal this weekend.
Yeah. So before we move on, I'm gonna put everybody on the spot a little bit. I'll start first. But what was just something cool that you like, a cool moment for you, whether it was a conversation or what you saw? Kind of think about that. I'll go first. The way we do it is we sub in every 4 minutes. So if you play the first 4 minutes, the next group of people come in. So at the end of some of these tight games that were going back and forth, we had literally kids that were in our top 10 of the state rankings. Just it happened to be they were on the bench
Just say
for the
Keontae
final moment.
Graybear because he was going
Yeah,
nuts on the bench. It was
that's
awesome.
exactly what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
Like he's not in the game, and that game was going back and forth. There was an end up game winner, but those guys are up cheering for their guys. It mattered. And when we talk about those 26s to set the tone, I didn't mean, hey, assert yourself and go just run through people like and go get buckets. I meant that. I mean, showing leadership, showing that you care, showing that you're proud of a kid that you may have just met an hour ago, but just being right there in the moment. Keontae Gray Bear like did that, and almost gave me goosebumps to see just that level of a kid like that gets it as a 2026 and what we think about him on the court. I'm so excited for that. And there was just multiple times when games were tight, people were up and down on the court, really doing a little bit of coaching, a little bit of celebrating. It was just great to see.
I got two instances. First, I want to give a shout out to Cameron Lomax. First of all, grade A, like A+ baller. Like I love watching him, just a hooper. And he came in town fresh off a visit to UNLV, playing touchdown. His mom and him come down to Duncanville Fieldhouse, get a Tyler Ralph session in, get a game in. Just love it. I think you said it best, Mike. It matters. The second, a couple of kids just made impressions on me. Coming up, shaking my hand, and like,
absolutely,
I don't mean that from like a you got to know who I am place. It's just like it was really refreshing. Romeo Watts, one of them, comes up to me, just shakes my hand, is like, "Hey man, I loved this. Thanks for putting this on. Thanks for having me," kind of deal. And I was just like, "Dude, the pleasure's all ours. We love watching you play." And it was just really special to see, like a kid. It just shows maturity, and I was just impressed by little things like that.
Absolutely. To speak on that while Blue, because I know Blue's still thinking. A kid came up to me and was like, "Hey, I'm not too heavy on Twitter, but who should I be following? Can you grab my phone and start following everybody?" I'm like, "Well, the guy sitting right there, that's GASO Blue, that's GASO Linden. Follow this, this, and this." He was like, "Mass right there. He does all the recruiting." He was like, "What else?" And I was like, "Well, if you're not active on Twitter or X, just make sure your profile picture is where somebody's scrolling, they can see, and just make sure your bio is all done." He was like, "I really appreciate that," because we kind of preach that. We're like, we're the college coaches. They're on X.
Yeah.
So the fact that kids came up and were asking questions and wanted to be a part, and we're kind of taking that in. That's kind of what all the fun stuff was great, but when we want to put on a camp and an experience like this, we want you to get the most out of it.
Yeah,
and I'm glad it's like that came up.
What's the goal at the end of the day, Mike? It's so these if they want to play, we want to help them play and advocate for them. So
yeah,
I mean, great advice. Good on you, buddy. Blue?
Yeah. And well, I was going to piggyback a little bit off of Mike or what he's saying, because some of these players aren't necessarily going to have a chance to play with some of the guys that they did this past weekend. They'll go their separate ways onto their high schools and onto their traveling teams, and they know each other, and they know each other by name, and some of them might even know where they're ranked in the nation or in the state by us. And what happens is that it builds that bond that happened hopefully through a little, that maybe GASO had a little part of. And so it's also the wow factor of all of this is that guys wanted to come out and compete. Look at the Allmutter twins. They just won a state championship the night before. I'm talking to them, and they said, "Well, we had an after party, with some sodas and pizza, and then all of a sudden we look up, it's like 1:00 in the morning, and the team still gathered together at somebody's house, and just like building those memories. But oh, by the way, I'm going to come play some hoops on Sunday at the GASO Next."
So much respect. I love it. They want to compete.
Beckham Black and his mom, they drove back from San Antonio supporting the Duncanville girls state championship team. They left San Antonio at 5 a.m. and she was like, "Hey, we're on the way. We'll be there right around his first game, but we're coming." Those are we just loved all those people from all out of town. We had San Antonio kids coming, Austin, Houston, and each time we do this, we want to do it bigger and bigger, and we're very appreciative of everybody that sacrificed. Even if you played Saturday, there's a lot of guys that played in the regional final the night before, and we're like, you know what, we're gonna come do this. So we don't take it lightly, and we're very grateful.
Love it. We got to get some state content here. And you're making your
How hard?
picks.
Yeah. How hard were y'all? How hard were y'all to talk about? Like, were y'all on my acting bad on state? I was kind of going through it, and in the moment, I was like, "This is what I'm going to say," but there's so many good matchups. Was it hard for y'all to kind of be straightforward in your thoughts?
A little bit, it may seem like some hem hawing, but it's just like 6A especially. There's just so much parity, and it's like we talked about the storylines of each team in 6A if they won, and they're all pretty amazing.
Nice, okay.
You know what I'm saying? And just like a little teaser, we talked about Stony Point. If they pull this off, they will have the best player in Texas. They will have overcome every bit of adversity thrown their way. They will have to beat Plano East, who they lost to early in the season. They had to beat Brennan to get to the regional final. Like there's so much adversity that they had to face, and then to go down to 4A to Coach Broadhurst. Like just the storylines are phenomenal. There's so much parity this year. Go watch me and Blue's Cup of Hoops, and then Mike's going to do his thing. But we are going to make some guarantees. What are your state guarantees? Blue, I'm passing to you first.
This one kind of came pretty quickly off the top of my head. Is that some of the toughest, best played games are from the smaller divisions of the 1, 2, and 3As. They don't have the luxury of having 4 dudes on the court that are 6'4" or taller. The tallest guy on the court might be 6'1" and also be the starting quarterback or starting wide receiver for their 6-man football team. And there's this purity to it as you look at the 1As and the 2As. And there's this pure form that we see from year to year. But they're also getting different diverse athletes there that can be like the Showstopper guys.
Yeah.
And so I think that the guarantee is that you're going to see some tough play. You're going to see some of the most strategy maybe coming out of those leagues, because we can look at Lancaster and Amarillo and pinpoint exactly what's going to happen, how each are going to play, and how they're going to adjust. But these, not because of the lack of seeing these younger teams, these 1A or 2A teams, or sometimes the 3A teams, but what happens is that there's just not the athleticism and the size and the length as at the top of the food chain. And so that basketball in its purest form sometimes just happens at 8:30 in the morning.
Love it. Mike?
So for me, it's the statements, who expects to be there versus who's happy to be there. And what I mean by that is that you're going to have your send-offs to the Alamo Dome. The community is going to be behind you. You're going to get on that bus ride. You're going to get to San Antonio. Once you step off that bus, it's going to be the ones who expect to be there that are going to have more success this weekend. Be happy. Everybody's happy to be there. But once you step on off that bus and walk into the Alamo Dome and be like, all right, this place is big, the quicker you're able to lock in and say, we're supposed to be here, we earned the right to be here, let's go figure out how to get this done, are going to prevail, in my opinion. So enjoy it. You've earned it. But once you get off that bus, you're supposed to be there for a reason, and go show it.
Is that a Beaumont United section? I guess we'll find out in Acton-Bad. Because, like I said, there's 7th and 8th game potentially. Oh, my God. My guarantee, I'm going to go coachy here. I feel like the Dome always affects shooting.
I wanted to use this one, though, first. I saw you put it in there, so I was like, this is huge.
Well,
this is huge.
I told this exactly to Mass, too, because I was thinking about one particular player in mind on this.
Well, I'm sure all the coaches got a dome for shoot around. They're going to get their shoot around in their practice at the Alamo Dome as well. But if the dome's going to affect shooting, well, what has to be, the constant? And that's going to be the defense. Who can get stops? I guarantee the team that strings together the most kills will win these games. And a kill is 3 straight stops. If you have four of those, 5 of those, it is tough to beat a team. It's like if you win the offensive rebounding battle, the turnover battle, and the free throw battle, that's what a kill. If you win the kill battle, it's so hard to overcome that. So who's going to get stops? And if you are hot, man, hat tip. I love it. If you can perform in that dome, big time.
You know what I love about State? I hope, Mass, when you're streaming it, you get to see it. But since they put the fan sections in different spots,
Yeah.
just those momentum and those crowd runs when like that crowd erupts, oh man, it's just the best. When that crowd gets behind you on those runs, and a lot of times it's after those stops that you talk about.
Yeah.
But it's in different corners of the Alamo Dome that you start to see erupt, and I'm so excited for that.
No, it's
Hey, sometimes the guarantee is that the entire town from West Texas comes out and watch their team. I mean, that there's just so much. It is a fun atmosphere, no matter what classification you are, really.
Yeah.
But so many things can happen that hadn't been done before.
If you're not subscribed to the GASOcast break, I highly recommend that you do. If you want all the state content, I'm going to tell you right here where it's going to be found. It's going to be found on our Twitters. Okay, it's going to be found at the GASOcast break. And it's going to be found on A Cup of Hoops and the Acton Bad broadcast. So we've got you covered. Believe me. I know we talked about NextGen here, but believe our other shows are littered with state content, and it's going to be a special weekend. So good luck to all who are competing this weekend. Let's hope for fireworks, fellas.
Absolutely.
Thanks for tuning in.